Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Neeti Gur from IGN College, District, Kurukshetra. Today we are going to talk on module communication, process, types, barriers from paper Principles of Management. Learning outcomes. After studying this module, you shall be able to know the meaning, concept and importance of communication. To understand the process of communication in organizational context, to contrast different types of communication and provide examples of each, to understand the barriers in effective communication, and to identify the essentials of effective communication in organization. Introduction. The word communication has been derived from the Latin word communis, which means common, which indicates common understanding. It is understood as a process of exchange of ideas, views, facts, feelings, etc. between people to create common understanding. Definition of communication. Communication is transfer of information from the sender to the receiver with the information being understood by the receiver. This definition was given by Harold Combs and Haynes Weilrich. According to Rogers, communication is a process by which people create and share information with one another in order to reach common understanding. Lewis Allen defines communication as communication is the sum of all things one person does when he wants to create understanding in the mind of another. It involves systematic and continuous process of telling, listening, and understanding. G. Brown defines communication as the transfer of information from one person to another, whether or not it elicits confidence, but the information transferred must be understandable to the receiver. Newman and Summer defines communication as an exchange of facts, ideas, opinions, or emotions by two or more persons. Importance of communication. It helps the subordinates in better planning by identifying the weaknesses and merits of the plans. Decisions are improved by effective communication, as communication makes the larger participation possible. Communication helps in improving the motivation, as the feedback provides an opportunity to the manager to understand the feelings, behavior, temperament, capabilities, and limitations in a better way. Communication improves the public relations as it helps in minimizing the understandings and doubts. Communication helps in integrating the people and aid to coordination. Communication process transmits ideas, decisions, and orders of management on one hand and receives response, reactions, or subordinates on the other. Communication renders the complexity of business intelligible and workable. Elements of communication. There are 6 elements in the process of communication which drive the communication by sharing the ideas, information, and attitudes with someone. Following are the elements. First is the sender. It is the person who conveys his message to other persons. The sender may be superior, subordinate, peer, or any other person. Message. It contains ideas, feelings, suggestions, order, etc., which is to be passed to the receiver from the sender. Encoding. It is the process in which the message is to be converted into symbols such as words, pictures, gestures, etc. Media or channel. It is that path through which the encoded message is transmitted by the sender in the written form, face-to-face, phone call, internet, etc. Decoding. It is the process of converting the encoded symbols of the sender. Receiver. It is the person to whom the symbols are transmitted. Feedback. Feedback is necessary to ensure that receiver has received the message and understood it in the same sense as the sender intended. Process of communication. Following are the models which are used to understand communication process. Shannon-Weaver model. This model is specially designed to develop the effective communication between sender and receiver. Also, they find factors which affect the communication process, called noise. The model deals with various concepts like information source, transmitter, noise, channel, message, receiver, channel, information destination, encoding and decoding. Elements of the model: information source, selection of desired message from all the messages. Transmitter, the person who transmits the message is the transmitter. He changes the messages into signals. Channel, channel is the medium through which signals are transmitted. Receiver, receiver is the one who decodes the messages from the signal. Destination, destination is the person to whom the message was originally intended for. Noise, noise is the interference with the message traveling along the channel, which may lead to the signal received being different from that sent. According to this model, communication problem can arise at any one of the three levels. Technical level, where one asks the question, how accurately can the symbols of communication be transmitted? The semantic level, where one asks the question, how precisely do not transmitted symbols convey the desired meaning? The effectiveness level, where one asks the question, how effectively does the received meaning affect conduct in a desired way? The figure given below gives the Shannon-Weaver model of communication. It consists of the sender, the message encoded, the channel of message, the decoding of message receiver, and the noise. Noise is the disturbance in communication process. Berlow's model, or the SCMR model. This model is also known as dynamic process model. SCMR model of communication. S stands for source, M stands for message, C stands for channel, and R stands for receiver. The source or the sender, he encodes the message, then through a channel it is sent to the receiver who decodes the message. Source. Source is the originator of the message. The source encodes his message with the help of communication skills. It is the individual's skill to communicate, the ability to read, write, speak, listen, etc. Attitude. The attitude towards the audience, subject, and towards oneself. Knowledge. The knowledge about the subject one is going to communicate. Social system. Social system includes the various aspects like values, beliefs, culture, religion, and general understanding of society. It is where the communication takes place. Culture. The culture of particular society also comes under the social system. Message. When an individual converts his thought into words, a message is created. It contains contents, elements, feature, and code. Channel. It actually refers to the medium information flows from the sender to the receiver. It is nothing but the five senses. The five senses which we use are hearing, seeing, touching, smelling, and tasting. Receiver. It is the one who receives, understands, analyzes, and interprets the message. It is also known as listener, audience, or decoder. According to Berlow's model, communication will take place properly if the receiver is on the same level with the sender. Transactional process model. This model is based on the social approach of organizational behavior. The reciprocal determinism of social learning is very similar to the transactional process of communication. Channels of communication. Channel means the medium through which the information flows. Channel of communication are of different types. These can be classified according to the organizational structure, flow of information, and on the basis of medium of transmission. Types of communication channels. Communication channels can be categorized as per the organizational structure, which can be bifurcated as formal and informal channels. As per the flow of information, these can be categorized as upward, downward, and horizontal. And as per the medium of communication, they can be categorized as oral, written, and gestural communication. As per organization structure. Formal communication. Formal communication is based on formal organizational relationships. All have to follow the prescribed system only. In an organization structure, for example, the sales manager can communicate to the production manager only through his immediate superior, say general manager, and not directly. This system of communication is called formal communication system. Advantages of formal communication. It locates responsibility. It helps in maintaining secrecy. It strengthens the authority-responsibility relationships. Disadvantages of formal communication. It leads to delay in decision-making. It affects the quality of information given at various levels. There is difficulty in fixing of responsibility. Informal communication. Informal communication emerges out of social interactions among the people. Communication spreads information fast. It also leads to rumors, which is a fast passenger. This system is called grapevine. Grapevine communication may follow different type of networks. Some of these networks are given below. First is the single strand network, where each person communicates to the other in sequence. The next is gossip network, where each person communicates with all on non-selective basis. Third is the probability network, where the individual communicates randomly with other individual. And fourth is the cluster network, where the individual communicates with only those people whom he trusts. This is the most popular network amongst the four. The difference between formal and informal. Formal communication is based on authority-responsibility relationships, whereas informal communication is based on interpersonal or individual relationships. Under formal communication, official secrecy is maintained, whereas in informal communication, no secrecy is maintained. In formal communication, decision-making is slow. However, informal communication is fast and quicker in decision-making. Formal communication facilitates delegation of authority, whereas there is no role of informal communication in delegation of authority. Formal communication is not flexible in nature, and informal communication has no rigidity at all. Formal communication is expensive, but informal communication is not expensive, or we can say it is less expensive. Formal communication can flow only upward, downward, or in a horizontal direction, but informal communication can flow in all directions. Communication channels as per flow of information. Upward communication. It is often called bottom-up communication. The direction of the flow of this communication is pointed from top level to successively higher levels in the organizations. The subordinates use upward communication to convey their problems and performances to superiors. Grievance redressal system, complaint and suggestion box, job satisfaction surveys all help improving upward communication. Downward communication. It is frequently called as top-down communication. In this communication, normally instructions are issued to subordinates to carry out the work. Downward communication is used by the managers for the following purposes: for providing feedback on employees' performance, orders and instructions about job, directions about understanding the job, organizational policies and procedures, communicating the mission and vision to the employees. Organizational publications, circulars, letters to employees, group meetings, etc. are all examples of downward communication. Horizontal communication. Horizontal communication is also called as cross communication. It is the flow of information between persons of the same hierarchical levels. Managers have to be in constant touch with one another and communicate speedily and effectively about the plan of action and attain organizational goals. In the figure given below, communication channels as per the flow of information have been presented. First, the part A shows upward communication, where communication is flowing from the lower level to the middle level and then to the top level. B part shows the downward flow of communication, where information flows from the top level to the lower level, then following the middle level. And this part C shows horizontal communication, where communication is between the same levels in the hierarchy, from top level to the top level, from middle level to the middle level, and from lower level to the lower level. As per medium of communication: oral communication or verbal communication. Oral means by spoken words, that is by speech. Following are the ways of verbal communication: face-to-face discussion, telephone, intercom, mobile phones, meeting, conference, announcements. Advantages of oral communication: least costly, speed is fast, easier decision making, reduces misunderstanding, it is effective if the sender is an able operator. Disadvantages of oral communication: if the sender does not express the information well, it leads to confusion. Limited sized messages can be transmitted orally. If distance is far, then it is not efficient to use this type of communication. Written communication: it means passing the information by written words. It may be in the form of letters or office memos, circulars, bulletins, board notices, policy and procedural manuals, employee handbooks, and performance appraisals. Advantages of written communication: distance is immaterial in case of written communication. It can be preserved as record for future. It is an easy reference and is always readily available. It can be read and understood clearly. It is cost effective. It leads to improved decision making. Advantages of written communication: it is costly for small organizations. There is difficulty in interpreting the tough and high language. Secrecy gets reduced as information can be read by anyone. Difficult to amend once it has been issued. It leads to confusion and misunderstanding if not properly formulated. Gestural communication: this implies conveying the information by using gestures or postures like warm handshake, hugging, and pat on the back within the limits of decency, which help in communicating or motivating. Barriers in communication. First barrier is the semantic barrier, which is due to the different understanding of sender and the receiver of the message. Psychological barriers, which arise due to the different state of mind of both the sender and the receiver. Organizational barriers, which are due to the organizational policies and the organizational setup. Personal barriers, it is due to the attitude and nature of the sender or the receiver. And physical barriers are due to the distance between the sender and the receiver. Semantic barriers. The word semantic comes from the Greek word semantikos, which means significant. For example, a person who uses the word bi-monthly might take the meaning as twice per month, while the person hearing it thinks it means every other month. Semantic barriers arise due to the following reasons: holding different meanings of symbols, badly expressed messages, wrong interpretations, physical noise, faulty translations, unclarified assumptions. Psychological barriers or emotional barriers. Following are the types of psychological barriers: First is premature evaluation. It means taking the different meaning of message before the completion of message, giving inadequate attention to the message, loss due to transmission and poor retention power of communication, and distrust between the communicator and communicate, which acts as a barrier. Organizational barriers are of following types: non-supportive organizational policies, rigid rules and regulations in the organization. Status or level of superior may lead to psychological distance between him and his subordinate, leading to the barrier in communication. Delay due to more number of levels in the organizational hierarchy, and lack of organizational facilities also act as a barrier. Personal barriers. Attitude of superiors towards communication affect the flow of messages in different directions if it is not in his favor. Due to lack of confidence of superior on his subordinates, they may not be able to seek their advices or opinions. Due to unwillingness of superiors to communicate to the subordinates, it may affect the communication process in the organization. If there is no motivation or incentive for communication, subordinates may not take initiatives to communicate. Due to overburden of work, subordinates may not get the time to communicate. Physical barriers. These include poor hearing and distance between the sender and the receiver. Modes of communication. Interpersonal mode. Participants observe and monitor one another to see how their meaning and intentions are being communicated. Adjustments and clarification can be made accordingly. For example, exchange information via letters, emails, or video mail, notes, conversations, or interviews on familiar topics, for example, school events, weekend activities, memorable experiences, family life. Interpretive mode. The interpretive mode is focused on the appropriate cultural interpretation of meanings that occur in written and spoken form, where there is no recourse to the active negotiation of meaning with the writer or the speaker. For example, follow directions, instructions, and requests. For example, recipes, travel directions, prompts on ATMs. And presentational mode. Presentational mode refers to the creation of messages in a manner that facilitates interpretation by members of the other culture, where no direct opportunity for active negotiation of meaning between members of the two culture exists. Modes of communication. First is electronic communication, called as email. It uses internet to transmit and receive computer-generated text and documents. Its growth has been spectacular and its use is now so pervasive that it is hard to imagine life without it. Instant messaging and text messages. Like email, instant messaging and text messages are electronic messages. Unlike email, internet messages and text messages are either in real time or use portable communication devices. Networking software. Facebook has 30 million active users and composed of separate network based on schools, companies, or regions. More than 100 million users have created accounts at MySpace. This site averages more than 40 million hits per month. MySpace profiles contain blurbs about me and who I would like to meet sections. Profile can also contain interests and details sections, photos, blog entries, and other details. Web blogs. Web blog, sometimes written as weblog or weblog, is a website that consists of a series of entries arranged in reverse chronological order, often updated frequently with new information about particular topics. The information can be written by the site owner, gleaned from other websites or other sources, or contributed by users. Video conferencing. It permits employees in an organization to have meetings with people at different locations. Live audio and video images of members allow them to see, hear, and talk with each other. Video conferencing technology, in effect, allows employees to conduct interactive meetings without the necessity of everyone being physically in the same location. Essentials of effective communication: clarity of ideas before communicating. Superior and subordinates should adjust the level of communication according to their understanding and education. Language used in communication must be clear and understandable to the receiver in such a way that it does not hurt their sentiments. While conveying the messages to others, it is better to know the interests and needs of the people to whom the communication is made. The communication can be improved by giving proper feedback. Communication should aim at future goals of the enterprise. There should be regular follow-up and review on the instructions given to the subordinates. A communicator must be a good listener, means he must give chance to others to speak. Proper attention should be given to the timing and timeliness of communication, and the system of communication should be kept open and alive all the year round. It is only by honest attempts that good communication relations can be developed. So students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. Communication is an important management function, and all managers need to perform it effectively to achieve the organizational objectives. There are 6 elements of communication: sender, receiver, encoding, message, decoding, and feedback. Each of them has an important role to play in the process of communication, which transmits an idea and gets the feedback from the receiver. Communication can be in any form: written, verbal, and nowadays technology-assisted communication channels are also being emerging very fast. Managers need to understand that there can be several barriers to communication, which include semantic, personal, and organizational barriers. These need to be overcome to achieve effective communication in the organization. Thank you.